A red hot June, ADP employment number set rates to new highs. But raise your hand if you've ever heard an OG realtor or lender say in response, "Oh, that's nothing. I bought my first house at 12%. Now, mom always told me to respect my elders, but I'm coming at you guys today. Let's get it."
You're leaning to your left a bit.
Lean with it, rock with it.
Yeah, there we go. All right, perfect.
Audio video good? Let's roll.
Live. Yep.
Okay. Another week, another hit to lenders and realtors. The pain train just keeps on coming. June, ADP employment smashed expectations. 497,000 job creations, which was double the expected 228,000 job creation. And what gives, Ryan? That's great news, right? Well, depends on who you ask, because both the stock and bond markets really didn't like it because they believe this will push the Feds to be even more aggressive, and they appear to be right. As of right now, we have a 93% chance of yet another rate hike, and even more so in September and November. Feds are hell-bent on cooling this market down and fighting inflation. But back to our OGs, and OGs, I love you, but referencing 1980 and this graph to make the point that rates are still relatively at all-time lows isn't super helpful. And again, please take this with a grain of salt. We love you, but we're just ribbing you guys today. Yes, rates were in the high teens 40 to 50 years ago. And yes, we were still selling homes then as well. That's good perspective, but it just really isn't that applicable today. It's kind of an okay boomer moment when the OG steps up and talks about this at the team meeting. Again, I love you guys, but it's a different world now with a different market and a different Fed. Let's slide that graph to a more relevant time frame, Eric. Rates may be low compared to the 1980s, but for most everyone else in the business right now and covering their entire career, they're close to all-time highs. Is it the end of the world? No, of course not. But relevant perspective matters. There's a reason for all this pain and adversity right now. Inventory is low and rates are high, but this too shall pass. The question is when. And I was talking at an event last week, and in the middle of my presentation, someone stopped me dead in my tracks and shouted, "When will rates drop?" Understand, this wasn't Q&A time, but I totally understood the sense of urgency in his voice and the timing of the question. And I responded with the most sincere response I could, which was quiet shoulder shrug. I mean, I could talk for an hour as to what they should do, like we did with Barry, and I could show you the year-over-year inflation numbers, and I can talk about all the metrics as to why they should already be low, but they aren't. Even the best of the best are getting it wrong right now, guys. How can I stand up there and profess that I know exactly what's coming? But here's my guess. Mortgage rates don't start their retreat until the Fed does. The Feds want to do 2 more rate hikes. I think we see those, and I think a few months later, after we see the full effect of those rate hikes, we start to see rates come back down slowly. But that may not be until next year. Again, that doesn't take into account a crazy black swan event, and anything can happen if bank failures continue to happen or we get into a war. Now, let me leave you with some interesting stats from last week that are shareable and super interesting as to what may be coming our way. The first one is interesting. The yield curve has been inverted for over 12 months now and is much deeper than other previous inversions that led to previous recessions. In every case, guys, a recession followed. Super interesting and shareable. Thank you, Rawwitch, for sharing. And guys, all graphs will be in the comments section below so you guys can share them on your social streams. This next one is one that nobody is talking about. If only 20% of our bond debt matures and rolls over, the additional cost to the US government could be the equivalent of 1.38% of GDP. Think about that for a second. That means if we grow at a 2% rate as a country, 1.38% of that is erased by our debt payments. It's pretty crazy. The next one is timely as student loan repayment has been in the news. If the student loan moratorium is lifted, it will have a huge impact on retail sales, a massive swing to the negative. And again, guys, if you're playing along at home and you're hoping for lower mortgage rates, you're rooting for bad news, or at least news that will slow inflation and the economy. This is one of those stories, so yeah, I guess? I don't know. This last one is from a conversation Logan and I were having about all of this, and this is one of the graphs that he shared with me through our text thread. It's the 10-year overlaid with inflation readings. The interesting part to me, guys, is the ceiling of resistance for the 10-year. To translate, if the 10-year hits that red line and retreats, it will be good news for mortgage rates. It's hit that ceiling 3 times before recently and retreated every single time. Will it be a 4th? We will see. Tons of data today, guys. Guys, we're bringing the heat week in and week out, but we need more eyes. Share it with everyone within the office and with everyone on social. People want to see the data and facts versus talking heads, and we aim to do that every week, week in and week out. Help us get the word out. We'll see you guys next week.